Let's do a comparison inspired by the Fenty Beauty Diamond Bomb Highlighter. This product has been around quite some time. There's been brands launching very similar types of products. I did a short reel where I did some comparison swatches, specifically with these kinds of shades. So this is an extended version with way more topper, sparkle, diamond-like eyeshadows, highlighters, etc. There's a bunch of different formulas. There's some mainstream brands, some K-Beauty, C-Beauty, and we're going to be getting into the nitty-gritty when it comes to level of opacity and especially texture, particle size, etc. because there are definitely quite a bit of nuances between all of these topper shades. So let's start out with the Fenty Beauty Diamond Bomb. And some of these products were sent to me in PR and some of them I purchased. So this shade has so much sparkle, but it's very sheer and it feels really silky smooth, but I can definitely kind of feel the particles a little bit, and it is like ultra sparkly kind of shade. And I wouldn't say that you can really build it up. It really is just meant to be a topper. Now, in terms of texture of the actual pan, it doesn't feel like it's creamy or anything like that. I know that you can kind of squish in there just a little bit. Like I can feel it kind of squishing, but when you're actually rubbing it, I don't feel the same thing. So the shade I'm going to compare is Essence My Heart Beats Disco Glitter Highlighter. Now, this is not necessarily glitter. This is actually probably one of the closest things to the Diamond Bomb, like in terms of dupe when it comes to particle size, sheer level, etc. And this one does have also a little bit of squish to it. It has, maybe it's just a little bit more silvery, but it's extremely similar. Unfortunately, I think this was a limited edition release. I believe Catrice also launched something like this. I think that those are sister brands, so that doesn't surprise me, but these are literally spot on. I would say maybe Essence can be actually built up just a little bit more, but they are so extremely similar in terms of the sparkle level, the particle size, the particle type. And here they are in comparison to each other. You can just see just how similar they are in pretty much every aspect. The next highlighter, which this one is still available, that is the most similar to the Diamond Bomb, and this is from Moira, and it is called the Icy Days. I would say is extremely on par as well. Great alternative, especially because it is much more affordable. Now this one does have a very noticeable slightly kind of putty texture, and it does squish a bit easier, and I do feel like a little bit of stick to it. So if you have hooded oily lids, I would approach this one with caution in terms of putting it on the lid. You might experience a little bit of creasing issues, but I think particle size, sparkle level, it is right on par with a Diamond Bomb. If anything, the particles are maybe even smoother, and so it makes it a little bit more opaque because of that, because it is less kind of sparkle particle size and a little bit more of a silky particle size, but still very sparkly and a great alternative that is much more affordable. Except I have this K-Beauty highlighter. This one is O2 Diamond Veil. I don't know if this one is available anymore, unfortunately. A lot of these K-Beauty, C-Beauty products kind of launch and then go out of stock and then never return. And this one is super similar as well. It does have a much drier texture and it does pick up much more opaque, but the particle size is extremely similar, if anything even more scattered, which I believe is partially because of how dry it feels. But it is exactly the same kind of particle and the essence as well. But it definitely can be shared out, and this is how much is still left on my finger. It is so pretty. Next shade is also K-Beauty. I believe I got this one on Yes Style, and I think I got the glint one on either Look Healthy store, or I forget what the other one, Chic Decent. And this is also a highlighter, and this one is H02. And this one is super similar. And this one actually has also a very similar, kind of slightly more creamier texture, kind of like the Essence highlighter. So it does have a little bit of the squish in the pan. And this one is ultra sheer. And it's almost kind of hard panning a little bit. So also very similar. I feel like these, you can't really tell much of a difference between all of these, which is why I'm swatching them all together, because I felt like these are the most similar in texture and effect and opacity, etc. And then Joyfully Go-Go Tails, this is the shade 601. I believe this is an eyeshadow, and this one is also right on par. This one does pick up a little bit heavier, but I can just see the particle size even in the pan just looks so similar. If anything, maybe it's just a little bit more silvery, but they are super similar. I can build this one up just a little bit, which makes it more silvery, but the particle size, again, same level of sparkle, a little bit less sheer, can be sheared out. Next up is the top shade from We Need Better Lighting Duo from Patrick Ta. And this one's definitely a bit more kind of, it swatches a little bit differently. It feels dry in like a baked eyeshadow way. And you can shear this one out, but it does have a lot more opacity right off the bat. And it's for sure way more silvery versus like a white topper. Next I have the highlighter from Flower Nose. This is the shade Aria. And this one is, it has kind of, it looks like it has multicolorful flecks throughout it, so it might not be exactly the same, but I thought I would put it in here. I'm also not really sure if it's available anymore. It definitely can be more opaque and built up a little bit more, and it's more of like an icy, almost leaning slightly more blue and silvery kind of shade. Next two shades I don't think are similar, not only in texture, particle size, and opacity, but also in tone, but I wanted to include them in here. So first up is the Urban Decay Moondust Shadow in Cosmic, and then e.l.f. White Hot Fine as a Fleck eyeshadow. So you can already see they do have a little bit more of a beige tone to them versus like a true icy white. So I'm just gonna swatch these kind of above my wrist, right next to it. For reference, Diamond Bomb is right here. So there's a little bit of similarity there. Like the sparkle is there, but it's just not as sparkly as the Diamond Bomb. And it is more even throughout in the swatch. And I can see a little bit of that tonal difference as well. And then here is Cosmic, and this one picked up a little bit heavy. And this one I would say the particle size is a little bit similar for sure. And it is also a little bit more scattered, which is the case with most of the Urban Decay Moondust shadows. So I do feel like there's a slight similarity there, but in comparison texture wise, you can kind of feel the texture of the particles a little bit more than in the Fenty Beauty, which feels just really smooth, even though it has a similar particle size in there. They're obviously different formulas. So next up for comparison, I really wanted to talk about the Too Faced Disco Crush eyeshadow in Fairy Dust, and then this first shade from the Charlotte Tilbury Beautifying Eye Trends Super Neutral palette. On my video of this Charlotte Tilbury palette, I did compare these two, and they're literally the same thing and you can't convince me otherwise. So I wanted to show them because they seem like they might be very similar, because they kind of are similar to the Diamond Bomb, but the particle size is just a bit bigger. But in sparkle level, they're very similar, but definitely feel like the sparkle on these is just so good. So here is Disco Crush and here is Charlotte Tilbury. And they are so close, so similar. But I do think they have a little bit less of a scattered sparkle effect like the Diamond Bomb. I feel like these could be definitely more even throughout compared to that one. For reference, this is how they each pick up on the finger. So this is Diamond Bomb, this is the Too Faced single shadow, and this is the shadow from the Charlotte Tilbury palette. I can see that the Diamond Bomb particles almost kind of like flatten out, but definitely sparkle level very similar. Next shade is Tassel from ColourPop. This is a Super Shock Shadow Ultra Glitter. This one is definitely more opaque and more of a smooth type of shade where the particle size is really small. I do see some slightly larger particles throughout it, but you can just tell it's just not as sparkly, it's more opaque. Next, I wanted to talk about some single shadows as well as one from an eyeshadow palette from indie brands. So this is Skin of a Killer from the Vamp palette from Bella Beaute Bar. Love this shade so much. And then here is the Token Shimmer one from the recent and original Neutrals palette. And then here is Skin of a Killer in a highlighter form, which these two are definitely a little bit different. And then we have a few different single eyeshadows, which I don't think some of these will be too similar, these two in particular, because they do have a green shift, and the Fenty Beauty Diamond Bomb has no shift. But let's just swatch these. So first up, Skin of a Killer. I mean, right on par. I would actually say this is a great dupe for the texture of the Too Faced Disco Crush palette. That being said, I do think the color is pretty different. I feel like there's a little bit of a taupey base here on an angle in the shift, and it's definitely got more of a tone to it. So it's not necessarily like a true just topper sparkly shade. It's got a little bit of color to it, and it's got a little bit more opacity because of that. And here is Skin of a Killer, the highlighter version. It has a smaller particle size, very similar otherwise, but you can see that it is more even throughout compared to the shade from the eyeshadow palette, but still super, super sparkly. And then Token Shimmer 1 also has a little bit more opacity to it, can be shared out. I feel like I see pink sparkles throughout it just a little bit, so it does make it a little bit different, but I feel like you can kind of tell that these are getting into more opaque types of shades. But for reference, here is the Skin of a Killer shade from the palette sheared out to kind of match the level of sheerness of the Diamond Bomb. You can definitely see that while the sparkle level is very similar, there is still a little bit of that taupey base to it, and the reflection is looking a little bit more silvery, which could be because of the way that the base has that taupe in there. And the particle size is just ever so slightly in between these two shades. Next up is the Kitty Single Eyeshadow from Pretties for Your Face. This one is really, really dry, and it's a little bit flaky, so particle size is definitely not really similar. I'm going to try to share this one out. So I think it also has like an interesting, slightly more like thicker texture to swatch it, but it does have quite a bit of sparkle. I feel like this one is definitely more of a truer icy white. Next up is Mimas, and this is from Terra Moons, and this one is more of like a silver, but I do see also silver flecks throughout it. But I do see also it has a larger particle size mixed in there that is a little bit more unevenly dispersed when you apply it, but it is more of an opaque true silver. This next shade is from Queen Cosmetics. It's an eyeshadow. I forget the name of it off the top of my head, so I'll put up on the screen because they didn't come labeled. And this one has a green shift in it, so I wouldn't say it's really even close because of that, but in terms of the straight on, it does have that icy white sparkle and can be definitely either sheared out or built up. Next up is Glass Slipper from Glaminatrix Cosmetics, and this one is also a little drier feeling. This one does have kind of like a more icy white base, but it also has larger icy white particle size throughout it, which makes it ultra, ultra glittery. I mean, look at that. So sparkly. And then in focus, you can see a little bit more of that nuance. It does inherently have just a little bit more of an icy white base to it. And then the last single eyeshadow is Pixie Party from Bella Beaute Bar. I'm not sure if this one is still available. This one also has a pretty different particle size. It's a little bit more fully smooth and more opaque. So I don't think I'm going to try to kind of apply it a little light-handedly, but it also has a green shift to it, and I see some pink in there as well. So I don't really feel like this one's actually that similar, but I thought I would include it, especially when it's out of focus. You can really see the difference of it between all the other shades. So next up for comparison are some eyeshadows from palettes, as well as 2 sticks and 1 liquid cream shade. And of course, for reference, here is Fenty Beauty Diamond Bomb. So the first shade is the shade Raindrop from the Dieverune Cosmetics Dewdrops Part 2 palette. I feel like this one's definitely more, this one I would say is more similar to the Skin of a Killer shade from the palette, because I do see like a really cool tone taupe base. It's almost like a cool tone brown, and it reflects very, very silvery. And while you can sheer it out, it does have an inherently like more opaque base to it. The next shade is Splish, and this is from the original Dewdrops palette. Now this one has different colorful flecks throughout it, so I don't think it's really the most similar. It has also a green shift with pink flecks throughout it, so, and it is, again, it has a little bit more of a base, a little bit more of opacity, especially compared to the Diamond Bomb. Next shade is Elevated. This is from the Glaminatrix Cosmetics Elevated Eyes palette. I don't believe this one is available anymore, and this one actually very sparkly, but it does have a little bit more opacity to it, and the particle size is definitely much smoother, much smaller, much more even throughout. And then similar to that shade is Delicate, and this one is from the Timeless Tones palette. But this one's, I would say, has a little bit more of a topper-like effect, so it's just inherently a little bit lighter in base. You can kind of see that on the angle. I can build it up, but it's definitely a little bit more true silver versus like an icy white. And the next shade is the Breaking Dawn Highlight from Glam. And this one has different colorful flecks throughout it, and it definitely has like a really smooth particle size. That is, it does have a smaller particle size with some slightly maybe larger particles in there, but you can kind of see it has just a different kind of flash. It's a little bit more dimensional looking. Then Ghost Face from the Ghost Face Returns palette from Glam. This one also has different really subtle colorful flecks throughout it. It's actually very, very similar to the highlighter. If anything, it's a little bit more icy, but it's super similar. Like the flecks are very similar as well. I see blue and pink. And then the last 4 comparisons are 3 eyeshadow sticks and a liquid formula from Moira. So this is a Fenty Beauty eyeshadow stick in How Many Carats? And this one's definitely a very icy topper. But I feel like because it is cream, it does want to be just a little bit less sheer. So the way I like to use these, and I will do a whole video on some eyeshadow sticks. I have a lot of eyeshadow sticks to talk to you about, but this one I like to use with my finger and just tap it on. And it will definitely give you a much more similar effect to the Fenty Beauty. And again, because it is in this formulation and it is not a pressed form, it does have just a little bit more opacity to it. And also feel like the sparkle level is just not quite as sparkly as the Diamond Bomb. Next 2 shades are from Juicy. I have a couple of other shades as well, but those are like duochromes. So these 2 shades are similar in color as they're very silvery and icy white. However, they do have a pretty different particle size and opacity levels. So H01 is the shade that is much more of a sparkly topper-like shade, which you will see. And when I say it is topper-like, I mean it is ultra topper-like. This is going back and forth a few times. It will literally just leave behind some sheer wash of sparkles, so probably the most similar to the Fenty Diamond Bomb, but the sparkles are even more uneven throughout. And then H02, on the other hand, looks like it has a much smoother particle size, and so this one is more opaque and more even throughout. Honestly, not my favorite. The rest of these shades that I have from this collection, I don't know if it was a collection, I don't know if they've launched any new ones, but the rest of these shades are like this. And I was kind of hoping they would all have like a topper like quality to them, but it's definitely not so much. It's more of like a sheen than like a sparkle topper. And the last shade is the Prism Pop Pigment Liquid, and this is in Cuddle Cloud. This one more similar to the e.l.f. and the shade Cosmic from Urban Decay, where it has a little bit of a beige tone to it. And I'm going to try to apply it very topper-like. So I feel like this one's actually a little bit similar. I definitely see the tonal difference in this one compared to the Diamond Bomb, but sparkle-wise, they're super similar. So those are all the comparisons with the Diamond Sparkle Topper-like shades. Let me know in the comments below if you have any of these, which one is your favorite. Are you just sticking with the OG Diamond Bomb? Hopefully this video was helpful if you're looking for an alternative that is a little bit more affordable. Again, I would definitely say Moira, or if you can still get your hands on the Essence shade. I know that Makeup by Mario also has one just like this, but I believe it's around the same price as the Fenty Beauty. And then like I said, I think Catrice had something very similar that would also be affordable. There's definitely a lot of options to choose from when it comes to these kinds of toppers. So there's definitely something for everyone. And if you like this kind of content, I will put up some of my other similar videos to this one up on the screen. And thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you next time.